Hey everyone, the Scandinavian defense starts with e4 and d5. Here white's best move is to take on d5, and black usually takes with the queen. And here most common is knight c3, hitting the queen, and queen a5 is the classical line. Another variation is to put the queen on d6, the Bronstein variation, which we will look at later. And here a common line for white is d4, c6, also e5 is possible, knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, bishop c5, or also bishop g4, g4 is possible, bishop g2, d2, and e6. And here white has the aggressive queen e2, hanging the c-pawn, or the quiet castling. Black's pawn structure resembles the Caro-Kann, so many Caro-Kann players prefer this line. Another way for white to combat this queen a5 is just to play g3 and to attack this b7 pawn. And here, for example, knight f6, bishop g2, c6, and then castle rook b1 and pushing b4, b5, taking advantage of b7. So this c6 move won't prevent white from opening up this diagonal. And also white can try b4, which is not much explored. If black plays correctly, then it shouldn't give anything for white, but it's difficult to prove over the board. So other options for white here are d4, and this can transpose into a variation of the Nimzowitsch defense after knight c6. A variation, namely e4, knight c6, d4, d5, takes on d, queen takes on d. So this would be that position. And well, black can also play e5, which we will look at later. And here, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop e2, castle long, and black has better development. I mean, he has like 4 pieces attacking, and white hasn't castled yet. I mean, white still has that extra pawn, but and let's look at e5 here. White usually takes, and then black just sacks this pawn, and after white defends this pawn, for example, like this, then black can follow up like this, and white's king is stuck in the center, so black should have enough compensation for the pawn. And here just recapturing the pawn is not very popular, although it can be played also. Another possibility for white is knight f3 here, and after something like this, white can go to the main lines with d4, but can also just castle. This is quite non-committal, so white can still form different plans, but it's also a little bit passive. And let's look at another queen move after knight c3, the Bronstein variation. And it may look silly because white can hit it with maybe knight b5, maybe bishop f4, but it's quite playable. And well, white has developed this system against it. d4, knight f3, g3, bishop g2, castle, and then knight e5 with a strong active position. Okay, another way for black to play here is knight f6, the Marshall gambit, not taking the d pawn back immediately, but just trying to save some time. And here most popular is the modern variation, d4, because if black takes here, then white can play c4, and here knight to b6 or even f6 is possible. And a third alternative is the Kiel variation, and here what would you play? The obvious try is queen a4, and then if knight 8 to c6, then d5 is not necessarily good because of b5. So this is kind of something that black is hoping for. So, but white can have a good game here if he plays something like just a3, d5, and here knight f3, or f4, knight g6, bishop d3, e5, queen e2. And white can also play here, first check, and then a3. So that's why that variation is not very common. And white can also just play knight f3 here, and then c4 later. And now if knight b6, then c5 is quite sharp. Here black should retreat to d7, because if he comes here, then what would you do as white in this position? The right move is queen b3, hitting b7 and also hitting the knight. And if black tries something like b6, well, actually the knight is not being hit because it's protected, but anyway, b6 doesn't work because of just knight e5. And here there's just too many light square weaknesses. I mean, on f7, c6, and also white's hitting the bishop, so computers suggest just e6, giving up the bishop because of the king's safety, and perhaps getting a pawn for the bishop. So yeah, it gets messy. And if black tries bishop takes f3, then queen takes on b7, and it's a discovered attack against the queen and also threatening the fork. But the white queen just cleans the table, and this is also winning for white. And actually, maybe I was mistaken, but this is the Portuguese variation. Skipping knight takes d5 and playing bishop g4 instead. And here white can play f3, bishop b5, and c4. And also g6, which Karl Richter once played, at least. And let's see what happens if white tries to hold on to the pawn, which is not uncommon either. Here c6 is most popular, the Scandinavian gambit, and white shouldn't take there because it's kind of good for black, so d4 is most popular. And then c takes d5, and this is the Panov-Botvinnik attack of the Caro-Kann defense, with c4 after exchanging on d5. And also e6 is notable. It's the Icelandic gambit, and here most forceful line is considered to be this, or critical. And white can also play bishop b5 here already, and black can play knight d7, but actually that's becoming quite popular, but this is maybe the main reply. And here white can of course just take here and then consolidate, hold on to this pawn, or he can play c4 and here f3, knight c3 can lead to sharp play. Or black can also hit white's bishop like this. Or then white can go to e2. And trying to take advantage of this, the placement of this bishop, which is still quite awkward. Trying to take advantage of it later on. And another choice for white here is just again the flexible knight f3, or also knight c3, and this transposes into a line of Alekhine's defense, which usually arises after e4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, and then taking on d5. And that's generally thought to be equal. If black takes now, then bishop c4, knight b6 is the most common, or also knight takes c3 or c6 or e6 are perfectly viable. So of course there's endless possibilities, but those were the main lines in the Scandinavian defense. Thanks for watching. Take care.